movements and training. This is amazing. A 40-pound vest. I can only imagine if it was 100 pounds, but it makes me want to do some movements and training.
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin said in an exclusive interview, he said that I've studied Joshua and noticed the hurt in him. Wow. Otto Wallin will fight Dominic Breazeale, of course, Saturday, February 20th on Broner versus Santiago undercard live Showtime Boxing. I will be there to watch that. Wallin speaking to Mark Gadford, and he said, I believe I laid the groundwork for Tyson Fury's aggressive new style after cutting him. I've been watching Joshua's fight with Breazeale lately. Joshua has a great style, but I think sometimes maybe he does not trust himself enough. I hope that he can tune into how he looked against Breazeale. He looked more confident than he's been lately. It looks like to me like he's been hurt a little bit mentally after the Ruiz loss. Something looked off with him that night all the way through, from coming out of the dressing room and in the ring. I hope that he can trust himself and do what he's good at. He's got a beautiful style. He's just got to do what he's good at. I watched his fight with Pulev, and it looks like he's trying to explore some different sides of himself. He's got a good trainer with McCracken, and I know he's probably brought in some other people also now, but the training he has been doing with McCracken has led him a long way. So I don't think he needs to change much. He just needs to tune in to who he is. And when he fights Fury, he needs to be prepared to take some shots to give some. Also, you have to gotta remember, he has got a lot of pressure. He's a huge star. I don't even know how he feels inside. He has a big following. People are depending on him. There's a lot to consider there. If he can get in on Fury and let off some good combinations, that would be good. But I'm not sure, because Fury's a big guy, awkward. He can go southpaw, orthodox. I think Fury will eventually be too much, because these guys are the two best heavyweights in the world right now. I just feel like Fury is very confident. He's got a good head, and he trusts himself a lot. Okay. Well, those are the words of Otto Wallin. And of course, Otto Wallin has fought Tyson Fury, has sparred Anthony Joshua, but he was viewing Anthony Joshua's recent tape with Dominic Breazeale, and he was confident in the Breazeale fight. I think he probably was the most confident when he fought Breazeale. Why? Because Breazeale, I feel, had enough, or he was just as slow enough for Anthony Joshua to get all the proper counter punches and then get off first. So not only could he get off first, he was able to counter the way that he is comfortably countering someone. Okay. Dominic Breazeale also was a tough, durable opponent, so it gave him rounds in the bag. Okay. He hit Breazeale a lot. The jab was a major factor. Dominic Breazeale would contest to that, and he put that jab to Dominic Breazeale's face, and then from that jab connect other combinations as well. It eventually reminded me of Lennox Lewis versus Andrew Galata, if you can remember. Lennox Lewis just eventually teed off on him, but it didn't take Lennox Lewis as long as AJ took Mr. Breazeale. However, he was confident at that point. Now, as far as Joshua's loss, I think whatever happened between the dressing room, the ring, what happened in the ring, and then that whole situation, or really before that fight, because there's a lot of people now, and there's a lot of sources coming out that said Joshua was this and Joshua was that. Let me counterpunch this without getting too far into that. We will know when Anthony Joshua decides to write his book, like he said. Ingenious. Because when he writes that book, there's going to be people that want to know, and I don't think he's going to let any information out until that time. Counterpunch. However, the second fight, he was this boxer, lean, kind of looking like Vladimir Klitschko, you know, bouncing, full of energy, jab, feints, jab, right hand, sometimes occasional left hook he would put in there. You know, he used the ring like he's supposed to anyway. Okay. The fight after that, Pulev, because he didn't fight again until recently, until December. So, December looked like a combination between how he looked with Brazil and how he looked against the rematch with the champion at the time, Andy Ruiz. And I would disagree with Otto Wallin. I don't think that he's hurt in that area. I think he's apprehensive. Now, you can call that a flaw if you want, but I don't call that a flaw at all. I call that someone that understands that he can't fight everyone the same way. See, it's not smart. And I know Anthony Joshua knows he doesn't want to be put in the situation that he was put in June of 2019. I think that's something that is in the back of his mind. I don't think he's afraid of it, but I think he's definitely cautious of it. You know, he uses caution when it comes to that type of thing. Now, against Otto, like Otto Wallin mentioned, against someone like Tyson Fury, will that be a problem? Will that be a problem for someone like Fury? Because Fury is not only going to get off fast combinations, browse you, he's going to rough you up. He's going to put you in a headlock, you know. But again, that has a lot of, there's other factors you have to consider how that fight is refereed. Okay, because you know he might not have the luxury to do that depending on what referee's in there. So let's say that's Kenny Bayless. He ain't going to be able to do that shit long because Kenny... See, anytime you have a referee and a fighter, referees deduct points. It's almost like being on a job and a boss knows your tendencies and your habits. So if a boss knows, like the Evander Holyfield is known for what? Headbutts, right? That was one of his foul signature moves. Okay, well, people are going to know that. People talk, word of mouth, and especially if you have the same referee, he's going to know what your habits are. So if it's someone like Kenny Bayless that's going in there and refereeing a fight of that magnitude anyway, because he's mostly the favored go-to guy in big fights, go figure, he will know what Tyson Fury is capable of. Now, I don't know if he'll necessarily hold it against him, only he knows that, and God, but he knows what this guy's capable of. You know what I mean? So he's familiar with, okay, Fury's doing the same shit. He did the same shit in the Wilder fight. He leaned on Wilder, he put him in the headlock. Okay, no. So I think he's going to be less tolerant. So again, it depends on who referees these fights. Okay, so that's a big factor. So he might not have the luxury, but if he is, it's trouble for Joshua. He can't let that happen. But I do agree with Otto Wallin. He does need to throw combinations on the inside, which I definitely think he will. I think that's going to be one of the winning points if he's going to win that fight. Fight on the inside with Fury. He's not the bigger guy, right? He's not the taller guy. So the inside punches will be better for a person like Anthony Joshua. But for him, I've noticed hurt in him, so says Otto Wallin. I don't agree with that. I just think he's mixing up variety due to past time mistakes, overzealousness, leaving himself open, thinking a fighter's done when he ain't, understanding the dangers of fighting a fighter, especially when you do hurt that fighter or you drop that fighter. How much is this fighter hurt? I think he's aware of these things now. That's why I think he is more. And look, for one thing, you can't compare Dominic Breazeale to Pulev. Okay? Because Pulev is a jittery, awkward, good jab fighter, throws a wicked, slick right hand over the top. Dominic Breazeale doesn't do any of that shit. He chops with his punches. He fights. If I could compare Dominic Breazeale to anybody, I would compare him to a bigger, slower George Foreman. You know, I mean, he's a hard puncher, but I mean, he's not known to be devastating. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dominic Breazeale will knock you the fuck out. You know what I mean? Ask, you know, Ngannou and I think his name was Perez. These guys, that South Florida cat, both of those guys were undefeated, and he took them both out. Okay, so don't turn your back on someone like Breazeale. It ain't like a bad win or a bad, you know, fighter that he's in there with. He's just not the cream of the crop. Okay, so, but Otto Wallin, he does have his assessment in there, and I think, you know, he wants to get back in there with Fury, but I think he should focus more on Dominic Breazeale, which will be, I think, will be a fantastic fight, and I can't wait to see it. And those are one of the fights that I really look forward to seeing. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Otto Wallin saying that I've studied Anthony Joshua and noticed the hurt in him. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.